Pues muy buenas tardes a todos, tanto
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Those of you who are here at the Academy, well as the ones that are following the streaming on the page on the website of the regional government. Now we're going to have a very interesting conference with the director of the Glassworker, which is the first 2D movie in the history of Pakistan, representing the country at the Oscars 2025. So big round of applause for Usman.
Thank you very much. Thank you. No, I'm very grateful to be here, and thank you to everyone for attending, and special thanks to Manuel Cristobal, who believed in this project before anyone else. I love this craft more than anything in the world. Animation is, in my mind, and I'm sure all of yours, the greatest medium for storytelling. So my journey began in a car ride in Karachi, Pakistan. I directed 2 live-action short films at the time, and I was describing an idea for a new film to Mariam. And the more I described this film, the more we began to realize that this couldn't be done in live action. She asked me, why are we making this in live action? You've always loved animation. Why aren't we making an animated movie? I said, you know what? Why not? How hard can it really be? So that conversation was in the summer of 2014. The film we were describing is called The Glassworker. And The Glassworker is a coming-of-age story of 2 children from separate walks of life. Vincent, an apprentice glassblower learning from his father in their artisan glass shop, and Elise, a talented violinist and daughter of the stoic Colonel Amano. And the film follows both characters through their formative years as the growing threat of war upends their lives. The love that develops between Vincent and Elise is challenged constantly by the differing views of their fathers. It is a time when patriotism and social standing are considered more important than free thought and artistic pursuits. It is a time when love is just not relevant. The Glassworker is about perseverance. It examines innocence, war, melancholy, and loss. Like Vincent and Elise facing the growing threat of war, my colleagues and I grew up with the looming threat of conflict in a post-9/11 world. Riot drills, bomb threats, curfews, guards and checkpoints all over Karachi became an everyday part of our lives. But we continued to move forward. This was the only existence we knew. And The Glassworker subtly reflects our lives in Pakistan, starting with a glimpse into the way we grew up in Karachi, seen in the conflicts, the local legends, the colonial architecture, even down to what the characters wear, what they eat, and how they live their daily lives. Ever since I was a child, I obsessed over animation. It's what inspired me to draw. I spent hours of my youth watching films by Studio Ghibli and Disney. I always thought if someone started a hand-drawn animation studio in Pakistan, I would join immediately. I didn't want to go abroad and work. I wanted to do hand-drawn animation in Pakistan, to build an industry at home. I taught myself the ins and outs of animation by studying everything I could find in books and online. I learned how to make my own storyboards by studying the storyboards of my favorite animated films. I was desperate for someone to start a studio. As I said earlier, I would have joined in a heartbeat. But life had other plans. No one started a hand-drawn animation studio in Pakistan, and I pursued drawing and animation in my spare time while devoting myself to my other passion, music. ideas I had for animated shorts up until then, I wound up making them into live-action short films that I directed. In 2012, I was selected to showcase my music, art, and short films at TED. At 21, I was one of the youngest TED Fellows ever selected. And TED was amazing. I dropped out of my university in Karachi, Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture, after studying for about a year and a half, and began speaking and performing at TED and TEDx conferences all over the world. In 2013, I was invited to Berklee College of Music on a full scholarship and got an opportunity to conduct my orchestral compositions in Boston. Here's a small excerpt from my orchestral piece, Blue Moon Waltz. And can we please turn the volume up just a little? Thank you very much. The more time I spent around the amazing pioneers at TED, showcasing my work and seeing their incredible work, the more my mind started drifting from music back to animation. If no one was going to make a hand-drawn animation studio in Pakistan, I'll make my own. And at TED, I was surrounded by the greatest network of people in the world. I knew that if I pitched my animation ideas to the right person at TED, I could make my way to Japan and present them. So I did exactly that. And in the summer of 2015, I had talked my way into presenting at TEDx Tokyo, where I poured my heart out about my love for Studio Ghibli and my love for the Japanese animation industry. I was hoping that I could show my ideas to a few people there and get some guidance as to how we could possibly start our own humble little studio. What I didn't know is who was sitting in the audience at the time. His name was Mr. Kiyoshi Toriumi, a wonderful man who saw my talk and invited me to come see him the next day. I'm sure all of you understand, everyone who loves animation dreams about going to Studio Ghibli, but I was a kid from Karachi, Pakistan. The chances of someone like me ending up at Studio Ghibli were next to impossible. But there I was. And I had studied all of Hayao Miyazaki's storyboard books and Ghibli's art books. I had watched all the documentaries, so I was very familiar with the building, but nothing prepared me for that moment. And my eyes started tearing up as soon as I saw the studio building. I will never forget that experience. I got the guidance I needed from my heroes. Later that week, I arrived back home, my mind racing with possibilities for the Glassworker. So how does one make a hand-drawn animation studio in a country and culture with no foundation for hand-drawn animation? Well, first, I needed a core team, people who I could trust. I dropped out of Berklee College of Music, which was the second university that I dropped out of, and prepared to embark on my animation journey. For the film's producer, I knew that this position held a lot of responsibility, from logistic and creative input to overseeing the work being done every day. And Mariam and I discussed that there was only one person for the job, someone who already had the right creative mindset and business experience, my cousin Usman Riaz. For the art director, I knew Mariam would be the best person for the role. Mariam is the co-founder of the animation studio, and that is what she excelled at in our university. And Mariam also studied theater and art in Emerson, so her acting experience was vital in assisting me in the direction for the film. I knew that no big TV studio would fund something like this in Pakistan, but I still tried anyway. And after being laughed out of meeting rooms and presentation halls, I knew it was a dead end. I knew that Pakistan is full of so much potential and has so many gifted young artists. What if we were to bring these artists under one roof? We searched for like-minded creatives and spread the word in art schools and universities about what we wanted to achieve with our studio. And the response was wonderful. We received a lot of portfolios and recruited dozens of young people in the beginning. I thought, wow, everyone loves hand-drawn animation. But once they saw how much work was required, suddenly they didn't love animation as much. So I will rephrase. Everyone loves watching hand-drawn animation. Making hand-drawn animation is a whole other story. I was pretty upset in the beginning, but I understood why people would leave. In most South Asian parents' minds, if you aren't becoming a doctor or a dentist or an engineer, you're a failure of a human being. But I didn't lose hope that we would somehow find a team. And eventually, after sifting through a lot of portfolios and submissions, we did find a few exceptional professional artists from across Pakistan to join our studio. Against all odds, we began to form the very first hand-drawn animation studio in Pakistan, Mano Animation Studios. So here's a glimpse into the little world that we built for ourselves in Karachi. So with some guidance from my mentors at TED, I decided on Kickstarter to fund our pilot for the Glassworker. The purpose of this pilot was just to showcase the work Mano Animation Studios was capable of doing and hopefully raise money to complete the entire film. We set a goal of $50,000 to make a few minutes of animation and somehow managed to make more than double our funding goal, which is not bad for a bunch of nobodies from Pakistan. So overcoming many obstacles, we completed the pilot animation in January 2018. It was around 6 minutes in length and allowed us to flesh out the world we were building for this film. The pilot went on to take animation enthusiasts by surprise. I was pleasantly surprised as well. I guess people were able to appreciate the sentiment behind this project. The Glassworker is a love letter to the hand-drawn animated films that I love. The beauty of the frames drawn and painted by the human hand have a timeless quality to them. The groundbreaking quality about our project is not the medium we chose, it is the fact that we were making something like this in Pakistan. No one has ever attempted to make something like this in Pakistan. All I wanted to do was to make a beautiful film that moved people, the way the films I grew up watching moved me, with classical animation, beautiful hand-painted backgrounds, memorable music, and depth to its story and themes. So with the Kickstarter complete and the celebrations of achieving our goal behind us, we now faced a new challenge. We had only made 6 minutes of this film. How on earth are we going to make a feature film with our small and inexperienced team alone in Pakistan? Thankfully, due to this Kickstarter animation success, we were able to bring on board some key people to help refine the film. And I put all of my TED training to use, preparing a pitch of a lifetime to secure the funding we needed to complete our project. I knew this wasn't a project we could complete on our own. We needed an experienced production team to help realize this vision. Thanks to my many trips to Japan, I frequently encountered Mr. Jeffrey Wexler, the chief of international of Studio Ponok and Studio Ghibli's English language producer. Jeff believed in our work and came on board as project consultant. And Jeff's contributions were vital to the development of our film and our studio's identity. Without Jeff, the Glassworker wouldn't exist in its current form. And Jeff reached out to Moya O'Shea, an award-winning scriptwriter and actress who wrote our screenplay based on the initial drafts of the story that I had written. So the international team was coming together, and Mariam Khizr and I were flying to Los Angeles to present the project to investors. In LA, we were staying with Mr. Azhar Hamid, an entrepreneur and venture capitalist. So I was rehearsing my pitch of a lifetime in Mr. Hamid's lounge. And during one of my presentation run-throughs, he came and sat down and watched what I was presenting. After my rehearsal was over, Mr. Hamid saw the potential of our studio in Pakistan and right there and then committed to the project. I was very, very grateful. In December 2018, the team got together at BAFTA in London and finalized the Glassworker script and story. Now, I was extremely happy with the screenplay. I felt it was a nuanced story capturing all the feelings and emotions I wanted to capture, but I did feel that the length of the script would result in a slightly longer film than I wanted. But we were in a good place and decided to move forward and start pre-production. So the project started to gain momentum. Now, I took it on myself to draw all the storyboards. I obsessed over documentaries about Hayao Miyazaki and Mamoru Hosoda drawing their films. Something about that always resonated with me. The process reminds me of Mozart composing his pieces. I knew I had to put extra detail into the storyboards because our team was still inexperienced. Now, having made a few short films and our Kickstarter pilot, I knew what I wanted to do and I knew how to execute it. I planned every shot extremely meticulously, paying close attention to the framing and composition, the expressions and the designs of the characters, the lighting, and what I'm trying to say in the scene, and what I want the audience to feel. I drew a total of 1,477 shots, almost 2,400 individual drawings. It took 17 intense months, but I was finally able to complete the film storyboards in September 2020. I learned a lot from the process, and I wanted every aspect of the film to be as beautiful as it could be. I edited the animatic and did all of the scratch, music, and Foley as well. So our reputation in Pakistan was slowly spreading, and the studio was constantly being visited by people excited by the prospect of work like this being done in Karachi. One such visitor was Rashna Abdi. Rashna invited Mariam and I to speak at her Women of the World conference in Karachi. After seeing our presentation, Rashna wanted to connect us to an old friend from college. That friend was the amazing Manuel Cristobal. I had read about Manuel in 2013 when I heard that Studio Ghibli had bought his films Wrinkles. Manuel's wisdom and experience is something that our up-and-coming studio really needed to navigate the international animation industry. With Manuel by our side, we went straight to work. Thankfully, Manuel loved the animatic and saw the film's potential, but he felt that the film could use some trimming. The animatic was coming out to be almost 2 hours in length. And I've said many times that while I do have a set vision for the Glassworker, I'm not going to let my ego get in the way of making this film as good as it can be. I want to make the best film that I can, and I was ready to go to the ends of the earth to achieve it. Manuel connected me with his longtime collaborator and editor, the wonderful Jose Manuel Jimenez. After a few conversations with Jose, he knew exactly what sort of tone I was hoping to achieve for the film. And who better to learn from to become a better director and storyteller than someone who has worked on some of the best animated films that I have seen. And it was a very difficult process, but Jose taught me to trust the story that I had drawn. We just needed to find a way to navigate through it effectively. And after a lot of hard work and collaboration, we brought the film's length down from 1 hour, 58 minutes to 98 minutes, without losing any of the intimate character moments, which is a testament to Jose's talent and experience. So our film was ready, and with this wonderful team and Manuel's support, we were ready to take on the challenges ahead. So why do I feel it's important to make this movie, and what did I want to say with the Glassworker? I always say that story is key. If the animation is strong but the story is not impactful, then you just have a bunch of pretty pictures. The animation is a vehicle for the story and its themes. The glass scene throughout the film serves as an allegory for life. Life is beautiful, but life is also fragile. Life requires care and consideration to shape its beauty. With its vibrant colors and shifting forms, glassblowing is a magical medium worthy of exploration in animation. Elisa's relationship with music reflects my own musical journey. As you saw, I'm a classically trained pianist and composer. I grew up playing the works of various composers, but it was only when I began to write my own music that I realized I had a voice. In order to achieve excellence in any medium, one must devote themselves completely to their craft. We explore what this means through the stories of Vincent and Elise and how the approaching war shifts their priorities. The Glassworker is an anti-war film. I believe that war is not the answer to anything. Ultimately, it's the people caught in the conflict that suffer, regardless of whoever the victor is. My grandfather was a colonel in the Pakistan Army, and my mother's childhood stories inspired Elise's experiences of watching her father leave home with a constant sense of uncertainty around his return. The battles of the Great Ravine, a land of disputed territory between two sides at war, are heavily influenced by the continuing conflicts that take place in the subcontinent and the world over. There is a fantastical element to the film as well. Jinn in Pakistani and Islamic culture are beings created from smokeless fire. The jinn serves as an unreliable narrator, influencing Vincent's decisions and guiding him through the world. I won't give away more than that, and I hope you will enjoy the film when it's released here in Spain. The film's narrative is told in vignettes. Elise has written a letter to Vincent, reminiscing about their past and their time together. What happened to their friendship? Where is Elise now? How did they overcome the war? These are questions that I hope will keep the viewer interested as the narrative progresses. And personally, I loved the idea of seeing our characters fully developed in the start and then peeling away the layers and discovering who they are and what their experiences are. I've given enough context now, and it's my pleasure to show you the English trailer for The Glassworker. Can we dim the lights, please?
Dear Vincent, I'll never forget my first day in waterfront town, when I ran off on my own and first came upon the glassworks. I had never seen something so beautiful. It was magical.
To invite the Colonel's daughter over here. What can you be thinking, son? You are not like them.
Jinns are spirits created from smokeless fire. They have a special special powers. Some gin are good and some gin are bad.
Is this gin a good one or a bad one? It's like the sun
lives in there.
The Great Ravine is disputed territory. We claim it, so do they. So we go to war. Idiocy.
I'm here to discuss business.
We will not help build these weapons of war.
Papa!
Be my brave girl now.
Let me speak to Elise. What have I done?
I miss you, Vincent. You were right. To be an artist, one must create. Because without art and music, what do we have in this world full of conflict and war?
Thank you. The world in which the film takes place is fictional, yes, but there are a lot of influences from Karachi. So I'd love to talk about how we went about building a world of our own, on our own. To showcase the Pakistani culture through the architecture and cultural landscape was something we were very interested in for the Glassworker. We wanted to create a world that is structurally sound and believable. This meant mapping out the whole topography of the town, its roads, cliffs, rivers, and bridges. Let's zoom into the commercial district. Now, the commercial district is where the primary location of the film is and where we find the Oliver Glass shop. The terrain of the town was kept intentionally undulating with varying heights so that the glass shop was always visible from any distance. For our research and development, we were invited to the amazing Peter Layton's glass shop in London. And here we were able to study the meticulous process of how glass is made. We learned about the tools, the different processes, and essentially became students in the art of glass blowing. Mariam, our art director, sketched concepts and modeled glass sculptures inspired by the ones created by our friends at Peter Layton's. We wanted to capture the colors and interesting silhouettes of glass. It was very important to me to showcase Vincent's craftsmanship and creativity, how this quiet, shy boy says so much with his work. Our art department analyzed the way the glass looks, the lights, the darks, the shadows, the reflections, and tried to recreate it with the help of our animation director. And we continued to develop it and simplify it. It was less challenging when the glass was still, but we needed to figure out how it would look when it was integrated with the animation. Glass blowing is a very organic process. Once the glass is superheated, you won't have much time to work with it, as it starts to cool down immediately. One of the experienced glass blowers told us you have to accept that it won't always turn out the way you expect it to. Don't make it do something it doesn't want to do. But that's the beauty of it, the discovery process. The glass blowers treated it as if the glass was alive. We needed to ensure that the glass looks great and stands out in every scene. The colors and materiality of the environment had to be very carefully thought out. For the glass workshop, we had to keep in mind the film's early 20th century setting and research the tools that were available during that time. We had to answer questions like, what is the furnace made of? How does the heat exit the shop? How do they ventilate it? Where do they store all of their tools and their sketches? What is the material of the marvering table that they shape the glass on? Like I said, we became students in the art of glass blowing. Here you can see the glass shop storeroom. Now, Vincent and Elise come from very different worlds, and we wanted to showcase the difference of class, priorities, and values, which, aside from the war, was another subtle obstacle in their relationship. Here you can see Elise's living room. It's very posh and elegant, very different from the glass workshop. I wanted the environments to do the storytelling, show rather than tell. Now, Karachi is the largest city in Pakistan and the seventh largest city in the world. People from all over Pakistan come to Karachi. And what better place to draw inspiration from than our very own city? Growing up near the ocean has always influenced our art. It's one of the busiest ports in South Asia, and in turn, it connects us to the rest of the world. We wanted to take the elements of the imagery that we grew up with and integrate it into our film. Now here you can see a building called Frere Hall. The yellow brick with Venetian-style arches is iconic for old Gothic buildings found in Karachi. Pakistan became an independent country in 1947. So before that, it was a part of India, which was a British colony at the time. This is why most of our main cities are scattered with all of this old Gothic and colonial architecture. And we wanted to capture these iconic silhouettes. This is Empress Market, named after Queen Victoria. This building was a great inspiration for the school we designed for Elise to attend. We wanted it to look prestigious and feel like it had history and clout. This is the Royal Academy. We tried to capture the yellow brickwork and contrast it with the orange in the roof and the blues in the sky. The entire town around the school echoes Karachi's architectural influences. This is a building known as Flagstaff House, the house of the founder of Pakistan, and now a museum dedicated to him. We used it as inspiration to create the Colonel's residence. Mariam also made sure to add a bougainvillea tree in there because this is a staple for Pakistani gardens back home. These stripes above the arches are common architectural embellishments found in a lot of Islamic architecture. Here it is combined with the colonial architecture. This is a very small detail that we wanted to make sure we retained. Now, open markets are a huge part of our culture. You may be familiar with Turkey's Grand Bazaar, for example, bustling and crowded with constant bargaining and all kinds of colors and spices, a treat for the senses. The hustle bustle of people and goods scattered about was an important aspect that we tried to capture. Going to the bazaar with the parents and getting lost and easily distracted by the colors is a childhood memory we all share. The colors of the clothes, textiles, stalls, and in fact even the lighting was an important aspect in developing the marketplace or the bazaar for the glassworker. And bazaars have a certain sense of charm to them because of the haphazard nature of everything. Posters, marks on the wall, old frayed cloth. It's an organized chaos. Along with the hand-painted look for our backgrounds, we wanted to make sure that the characters integrated well with them. One way to achieve this was having homogeneous colors with the characters' color palettes, so they mesh well with the space. The sea and trips to the beach are a part of Karachi lifestyle. I used to go every Sunday with my family. We would park ourselves near caves just like these on coarse, hot sand to watch the sunset before we headed back to the daily grind. And you'll notice this influence in the Jinn's cave in our film. I wanted the primary color of the film to be violet, so the art department always tried to capture that color wherever we could. When preparing for this film, we began to rediscover our city through the lens of filmmakers to find inspiration for the glassworker's world. The subtle rock formations and the characteristic white sand that line our beaches. Speaking of which, sand is a very important element in the film. Glassworkers use it to make their glass art. That is why the glass shop being near the beach was planned very strategically. And as I said before, the story is told in vignettes and flashbacks. The film is not linear. For the locations, this meant visually showing the passage of time. This was one of the most challenging aspects for the art department. The locations needed to feel believable, and the set design needed to reflect what was happening in the story, not only according to the time period, but also according to the political situation. The workshop had to shift between a warm, haphazard creative space to a colder, more calculated space affected by the coming war. And of course, the film is about glass blowing. Glass is very important. The sculptures on the shelves needed to reflect Vincent's creative development. So we wanted to show the creative vision of both father and son and how they are different. Similarly, we wanted to show the shop gradually change during the war. Glass sculptures replaced by homeware, with fewer art on the shelves. Even blackout curtains were added to the glass shop for bomb threats at night, which made the bright and beautiful shop appear dimmer. Another important aspect was the color script. These are about 190 panels. As part of the pre-production phase, the art department used my pre-visualization sketches to create a color script for each and every scene, so we can achieve a cohesive vision for the colors of the Glassworker. Speaking of colors, textile is the leading industry in Pakistan. We're the 5th largest producer of cotton in the world. We didn't need to look far for color inspiration. We just looked at our own clothes, what we wore every day. Since the film takes place over a span of 15 years, just like the changing environments, we had to design our characters, specifically Vincent and Elise, with their gradual progression into adulthood. And I promised everyone on the team that the next time I will stick to one era so that we don't have to keep track of so many things. Here you can see some of the character expression sheets, exploration for the range of emotions. Keeping in mind that we had no one guiding us, I wanted to share the life cycle of an animated shot at Mono. So let's start with the storyboards. And we go with shot 1401, right at the top. Ali's on the train with another character, Malik. The frame is isolated. A 3D layout is made to plan the background and lighting to ensure that the scale and the environment is correct. And we don't simply texture over the 3D, we just use it as a foundation for the painting. Everything is drawn and painted by hand. I made this production board which refined the character design. And sometimes we just add color to the shot with the finished background to see how everything is working in unison. Here's another colored production board. A few more of varying complexity. Taking camera pans into account. The ones that pan left or right, obviously everyone knows, hence the longer canvas. Now, as you have seen, our animation process is traditional frame-by-frame animation with strong poses and subtle movement, just like the Japanese films that inspired us. And if we look at shot 229, in this particular shot, Vincent has found an old box in his storeroom that he hasn't seen before. Now, if I were to talk about some of the bigger issues we faced in the making of this film, it was being able to execute subtle acting like this with consistent drawing and emotive characters. I mentioned earlier that most of our team was working professionally for the first time. Others moved from different fields into animation. I use my own animated shots as examples to the team. I told them that no one has taught me this. I learned myself, and you can too. I wanted the team to observe the kind of movement and expressions I wanted, so I focused on shots like this where we're relying heavily on the character's expressions to tell the audience what he or she is feeling or thinking. And please remember, we were teaching people who knew next to nothing about how to animate, nor did they ever dream they would be working professionally in animation. We had to teach each and every person, again while also learning ourselves, on what looks right, what feels right, what drawing spacing looks good for any particular shot, and how detailed we should draw the clothing and the folds. Now, for example, I obsessed over how this leather bag was opening while I was animating it. I knew no one would pay attention to it if the physics looked right, but if it looked off, everyone would notice. And these little things were particularly difficult, and still are, because no one was there to guide us. We had to study and teach everyone everything ourselves while we were doing this on our own in Pakistan. So getting the character performances out of the animators was a tremendous challenge. But after years of work and self-training, and with constant supervision, the team managed to hit a point that was good enough to move forward. Now here is an example of a shot breakdown. You can see that each layer is isolated to show how we create the illusion of depth, much like the multi-plane cameras of old. Our animation director, Amir Rifat, built all of these systems for compositing backgrounds and animation from scratch, reverse engineering the work we saw from behind-the-scenes documentaries of both Eastern and Western animation to achieve this look. Every single thing that I've showed you in this presentation has been built from the ground up by Mano Animation Studios. Reverse engineering, animation, and painting processes, learning softwares, building a workflow to manage the entire production, which our producer Khizr built from the ground up. We willed this film and studio into existence. And I can speak for all of us when I say that every milestone has come with an emotional and physical toll on all of us. It has been exhausting, mentally taxing, and downright depressing at times. But I never lost hope that one day our efforts will be acknowledged, and I never let the team lose hope. For each frustration, it has also been incredibly rewarding, fulfilling, and tremendously gratifying. Hopefully, our work speaks for itself. As I said before, I love this craft with all my heart. And in this obsessive journey, I have realized one thing. You have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. And the reason is that if you don't have passion for what you're doing, and when what you're doing is so difficult, any rational person would give up. And deep down, I liked that challenge. I kept telling myself, no matter how long it takes, I won't give up. I wanted to make the best film that I could, and as I said earlier, I was ready to go to the ends of the earth to achieve it. So was it worth it? Hayao Miyazaki once said, you must push yourself until your nose starts bleeding and see what you create.
I thought it was fantastic.
It's an absolutely stunning, amazing film.
Like, despite the war, art prevails throughout the whole film.
इंतजार की घड़ियां खत्म हो गईं। पाकिस्तान की सबसे खूबसूरत फिल्म ग्लास वर्कर पाकिस्तान भर के सिनेमाघरों में नुमाइश के लिए पेश की जा रही है।
I'm just so proud that something like this has come out of Pakistan.
It was like creating something out of thin air.
Absolutely international standard. It's a brilliant piece of artwork.
Groundbreaking, to say the least. It's the first.
So this journey started 10 years ago in a car ride in Karachi. I never wanted to go abroad and work. I wanted to make hand-drawn animation in Pakistan. To aspire to make beautiful films that can inspire and delight. That's my dream. To make good work that can inspire others the way the amazing animated films I grew up obsessing over still continue to inspire me. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Usman. We have some questions.
No? Any question? It's been a remarkable journey, and yeah, the film has been submitted as Pakistan's submission to the Academy Awards. So, long way to go right now. We're in the international category and the animation category, but I'm doing this for the first time. I'm learning the process, and it is not an easy process. We have to showcase the film to a lot of people and get them to vote for it. I'm going to do my best. I joke that I'm not even the underdog in this race. I am the flea that lives on the underdog. So we'll see what happens. But like everything you saw, I'm obviously going to do my best. Yes, sir.
Sí.
Thank you. It's okay? Okay. Whenever I hear Usman talk and I watch some of his work, I remember one verse from our national poet. Iqbal came to Cordoba in the 1930s and he wrote a very famous poet about the Mosque of Cordoba and how it inspired him. And in that he says that whatever art form you do, मोजज़ाए फन की है खूने जिगर से नमूद. So whatever art form you do, whether it's music or writing or animation wasn't there at that time, I think. But whatever art form you do, it's the blood of your heart which adds the color to it and which makes it what it is. So I'm really inspired to be here in the presence of Usman, who's a creative figure from Pakistan who has, I think, made his mark. And I think animation is one medium which is very universal but very personal. And we all in our family, we learned about Western classical music through Tom and Jerry, and we learned about Spanish language through Dora the Explorer. So I think I think what Usman has done is really universal as well as very personal. And I want to congratulate him on that. And I would like him to talk a little bit about, as an artist, of course, it takes a lot of determination, it takes a lot of passion to be committed to this kind of project for a very long time. But it also takes a team. And I think there are a lot of management lessons which we can draw from his journey. That how do you inspire your team? How do you keep them motivated? How do you build up a team? How do you make sure that all the things that you need for your creative process are in place? And I think that's maybe another presentation, but if you can talk about that. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you. No, it's a great question. For how I kept the team motivated and how I found the team, there's this wonderful quote by Jeff Bezos that is making the rounds on social media, but I agree with it completely. He said that stay focused on your vision, but be flexible on how you get there. And I think that was the most important part for me, to get everyone aligned on what we were trying to achieve. And there's no point in working with talented people if you're not going to listen to them and let them utilize their talent. So when I worked with everyone, as long as it didn't impede the goal, as long as we were able to get to where I wanted to get to, if somebody had ideas and those ideas maybe clashed with mine, I thought about what I'm trying to achieve, and is this really stopping me from getting there? No, it's not. Sometimes the idea was better than the idea that I had, and I listened to everybody around me as much as I could, but it was a controlled stubbornness that I had throughout the entire process. And as long as the goal, the vision wasn't impeded, I listened to everyone and we kept moving forward. And I tried to inspire everyone as much as I could. Something like this had never been done before in Pakistan, so I had to make sure that we did everything properly and did it right. There's a lot of, I mean, I've worked with so many people here in Madrid, and there's so much professionalism that goes into everything that you guys do. That does not exist in Pakistan. We had to create that. So it was a lot of control, but also letting people be free to do what they wanted. And that's when they felt that they could shine and keep making and being a part of this project. And as I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of people who came, who saw how much work it was, and then said we never want to do animation again. So it was a difficult process by far, but I think working with a team and allowing them to be free when it was required and also when they needed it is important. And that's what I tried to do for this 10-year journey. I mean, some things I was saying earlier were so long ago that I don't even remember them. I was 23 when I started. I'm 33 now. So 1/3 of my life has been spent making this project, but I learned a lot from everybody around me. Thank you.
Pues muchísimas gracias, Usman.
Thank you so much, Usman. It's been a great pleasure.
Yo solamente quería daros las
I just wanted to thank you all for having come today. Tomorrow we'll start at 11:30 with Pedro Solis, who's going to talk about Buffalo Kids, that was really successful film this year. We hope to see you all. Thank you very much to the streaming project, Ileana Films. Thank you to the interpreters and Asti Traducciones. And thank you all very much. Thank you, Usman. Thanks.
Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much.